Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Nothing But Locks podcast. I'm your host, Ali Melnicki, accompanied by my favorite coworker, Robert Kowalski. How are you doing this fine afternoon, Robert?
Ali, I'm doing fine. Thanks so much. Boy, week 11, just when you think you got everything figured out, these dogs just keep barking.
Yeah, you know me, I love underdogs. I said on Monday I went 10-3 against the spread last week, ended up going 11-3
Yes,
for Monday
yes.
night. Commanders, I did pick them to cover. I thought there could be a weird thing that they would happen, that they would upset, because that's why I always
Weird.
take the underdog in division rivalry games.
No doubt about it. Boy, did things get weird. I was looking at the halftime numbers and I'm like, wait, how many third downs did they convert on? What's the time of possession of this game? Am I in the upside down world?
I think I had a double take because there was a graphic at one point that showed Washington having a time of possession of like 30 minutes, and I think the Eagles had 7 minutes.
Yes, right.
And I was like, man. Well, let's move on to the next primetime game that we have, and that's tomorrow. We have a good game against, I should say, in Thursday Night Football, and that's the Tennessee Titans and the Green Bay Packers. If Mike McCarthy wasn't a bonehead and decided to kick a field goal on 4th and 4, I would say this would be one of the more lackluster games. But it feels, Robert, like there's a sense of confidence behind Packers backers again. It's amazing how one win and one fluky win can just turn perspective on an entire team. So before we get into that and why, what are the odds right now for Thursday night's game?
Great, Ali. Yes. So I opened up the Packers about almost the end. It was probably right around halftime of the Sunday night football game, and we opened up the Packers two. Got immediately bet, like immediately up to 2.5, and then by the next morning, Monday morning, I was at 3. Went all the way up as high as 3.5, and now we're all sitting at 3, minus 120 to lay that 3. The total is 41. That hasn't moved.
I am not surprised that the Packers are favored in this game, and what I'm looking at the amount of money coming in on the Packers, because if this is one of the biggest overreactions to what happened in week 10, this is it. I just wrote about in my blog, I foreshadowed my pick, which I'll just say right now, I love backing the Titans with the points right here, but Green Bay is not a good team. They got away with a fluky performance by Christian Watson, who, despite catching those 3 touchdown catches for, I believe, 107 yards, he also dropped 2 should be easy catches. He's still a young guy. I don't want to say he's a bust. He did have a spectacular game. Don't expect that after him again. But the main reason why I'm on the Titans so much is their run game, and that's Derrick Henry. The Packers do not have a good run defense. We just saw the Cowboys and Tony Pollard run all over them. We saw Saquon Barkley run all over them in London a few weeks ago. We've seen time after time the Packers defense just get run upon. They've also lost Gary for the year. So that's a big hole in that linebacking core. For me, this was a no-brainer, Robert. I jumped right on my pick on taking the Titans +3. I think also people underestimate the Titans defense, even without Harold Landry to start the year. They've been playing shut down, particularly against the run. They allowed the second least most rushing yards to opposing teams this year. I'm all over the Titans. How about you?
Yeah, you see, this one's a head scratcher. I said it at 2, and I think everyone's just reacting to what they just saw. That's
Right.
exactly what I feel is right. Ali, there's honestly, I have Tennessee simply as a better team here. And even with Green Bay's home field advantage, it's still too many points. So there's an outside chance Green Bay steals the win, but I'll be glad to grab 3 points here with the Tennessee Titans as well.
Totally. And I wrote exactly that when I made my picks. If Green Bay wins, I'm not going to be shocked. But Green Bay isn't winning by that many points. I think this is going to be a nail biter that comes down to the end. Very low scoring game. You mentioned the total. I would be all over the under, I believe, at 41 right there. I think that this is a grind fest. I think we see a lot of Derrick Henry, a lot of long drives, similar to what the Niners did against the Chargers on Sunday night. Same thing, Washington, just pounding the ball, running the time out of the clock. For me, this is like I said, like you said, this is just too many points to lay. The Titans are a better team. They're first in their division. Let's not forget too, Robert, since they lost back-to-back games to start the season, they lost against the Giants, then they got blown out by the Bills, but they're 6-1 since that blowout. And their one loss came courtesy of the Kansas City Chiefs by only a field goal. And that's when Malik Willis has to play. I, for one, will admit that I was wrong. I think the Titans are an underrated team, and I think the Titans are the right side to be on here.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you one bit. From if you're looking for an update right here today on our podcast with the injuries, there's a few to look at that came across early this morning that made me feel pretty comfortable with our number. Two cornerbacks, one Caleb Farley on Tennessee. Right. He's going to be out. Obviously, Elgton Jenkins on Green Bay. He's going to be questionable. Let's see here. Randall Cobb. He's upgraded, but when we're looking at the cornerbacks, Green Bay's Eric Stokes is going to be out. So there's going to be obviously injuries every single week. I don't see anything that really stood out that made me want to change my number. Randy Bullock is going to be questionable. Obviously, Tennessee's kicker. They'll have to watch him and progress. Who knows what they'll end up doing there. But yeah, Ali, I think you kind of hit this one square. Tennessee owns the running game. They've been incredible basically the last month and a half, and to grab 3 points regardless of whether they're home or on the road, even in Green Bay, I think it's pretty appetizing.
I also, before we move out to the next game, want to point out, in any other season, Robert, if you told me, oh, the Titans are going to stop the run, they're going to stop Aaron Jones, they're going to stop A.J. Dillon, they're going to force Aaron Rodgers to throw, any other season I would have been like, good. Let's force him to throw. Like, Aaron Rodgers is going to carve up that defense. Not this year. If you force Aaron Rodgers to throw, he's going to make mistakes. We saw when the Lions upset them a few weeks ago. Aaron Rodgers just threw interception after interception in that game. He's not the same quarterback as he was in the past, whether it's because his offensive line has been ineffective or he doesn't have the same caliber receivers. You could debate that all day, but the bottom line is when Aaron Rodgers has been forced to throw this year so far, the outcome is not good. All right, let's move on to the next game. Sorry if our CEO is listening to that, because he probably won't be happy that we're siding against his team. But anyway, let's move on to the next game, which should be a very good game. And I know a lot of people were scratching their heads when they saw the spread on this, so I won't give anything away, but this is the Cowboys and the Vikings. So, Robert, what is the spread currently on this game?
You're absolutely right, Ali. This one is a little weird, and people might be wondering, how in the world does a team that has one loss and hosting catch points, home dog on a Sunday afternoon? The Minnesota Vikings are, in fact, underdogs. Cowboys 1.5 points the favorite, the total 47.5, Ali.
Yeah, and this is one of the games where when people have to question the spread, I go with what the minority does, and I'm back in the Cowboys. I hate to say it because I'm a Giants fan, but I think the Cowboys win this game outright and they cover. The Vikings are coming off a hard-fought overtime win in Buffalo against the Bills. One of my favorite bets is I love fading teams that are coming off their quote-unquote Super Bowl win. That was the biggest game the Vikings could have won this season, and they just did. I'm not going to be shocked at all if the Vikings fall flat. We saw also the Bills still had a good defensive performance in that game. The score was a little high, but you got to take into account Josh Allen threw 2 costly interceptions. He also fumbled in the end zone, which resulted in a touchdown. So that doesn't go against the defense. Now they got to play the Cowboys, who the Cowboys, despite giving up 30-plus points to the Packers, they still have one of the elite defenses in this league. I think they clamped down not only on the running game in Dalvin Cook, but I think between Trayvon Diggs and the secondary, they shut down Justin Jefferson. The last time Justin Jefferson was covered by an elite cornerback was against the Eagles and Darius Slay, and Kirk Cousins threw 3 interceptions throwing to him. The Bills still are without Tre'Davious White. They don't have a great secondary. The better part of their defense is their front 7. So for me, I'm on the Cowboys all day. How about you, Robert?
I also will be with you here. I just have Dallas. I mean, look, we're splitting almost hairs, but I do have Dallas positioned higher in my own personal ranks than Minnesota, not by much, And so, this one basically putting them on a neutral field, I'd have Dallas pretty much right at this number. So if you figure Minnesota does get a little bit of an advantage, this like Ali, this one's going to be really, really darn close. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas does win this one by one. There's a very, very small possibility here that Minnesota does get the cover and lose. But chances are, with a spread this tiny, Dallas wins and does cover. So you absolutely nailed your analysis there. Minnesota is really, really just so much better than we ever expected. And obviously here, they moved from Buffalo and now they're playing Dallas at home. Really, really incredibly tough strength of schedule. Lots to be said about what Minnesota's already done, but I simply think Dallas has far better talent, and I think they get the win here.
Totally agree with you. So we're 2 for 2 to start off the day. I always love that. Let's move on to a rematch of a Thursday night game earlier in the year, and we have two division rivals going up against each other. The Chiefs and the Chargers, Robert. What are we looking at here for odds?
Kansas City on the road here in LA. I opened up Kansas City a nice 7. And I got the first bite was to come, and bet the dog. So now it's sitting 6.5. The total hasn't changed. It's 49.5. So 6.5, 49.5.
Well, I would say my first lean on that game is the over. The Chargers don't have a good defense. Kansas City really doesn't have a good defense. They're especially weak against the run. So expect Austin Eckler to have a bounce back game after not doing well against the 49ers. So I definitely am all over the over on that one. Number 2, it's just too many points for me to lay with the Chiefs. I'm going to side with the home team. Again, I just said why I like backing big underdogs when it's a division rivalry game. I think the Chargers have just had a lot of bad breaks to start the season. Do we know, Robert, are we going to expect Keenan Allen or Mike Williams back this week?
Right, good question. So in terms of the Chargers injuries, I see Keenan Allen on the questionable list. Obviously, his hamstring's still wonky, and I've always said this. You pull your hamstring, you're not coming back in 2 weeks. Heck, you're not coming back in 4 weeks.
Unless you're Kadarius Toney.
It's an 8-week. I'm sorry. It's an 8-week injury, and it just simply it takes time. So he's at this point he's listed as questionable to play against Kansas City. As far as Mike Williams, he's going to be out. That's for certain. He's out indefinitely. So this is a weird one, but I'm siding with you. I think that Kansas City is definitely has a weak spot for run defense. That's actually what the Chargers have been leaning on in Eckler's his pretty violent style. He's catching as many receptions as he can from the backfield, and when he's not doing that, handoffs, pitch outs have been pretty darn successful for him pretty much from week 3 on. So home dog here plus 6.5, more appetizing than laying the points with Kansas City.
Totally agree with that one. Let's move on to the Eagles and the Colts. Many thought the Eagles would still be undefeated going up against Indianapolis. They're not. So the 72 Dolphins must have had their toast after the game on Monday night. But nevertheless, what are we looking at for the odds here, Robert?
Yeah, right after the Monday night game, Philly resets and goes into Indianapolis. This one opened up big. And by big, I mean, I opened this up Monday morning, not knowing the result of what would happen against Washington. I opened up the Eagles as 10. And then obviously that got adjusted pretty significantly, got bet down to 7.5, 7. And now at its current number, Ali, Philadelphia Eagles, 6.5 and the total 44.
I think we're getting such good value with the Eagles right here. I think, again, this is an overreaction to the Eagles losing what I'd like to say is a trap game on Monday night. I think the Eagles are 1,000 times superior team than the Colts. The Colts still are not a good team, despite beating the team we will not name on this broadcast on Sunday. It just seemed like they would win against the Raiders. I hate to say it. I sided with them, but it's one thing to face a 2-7 Raiders team and then to go up against an Eagles team that's 8-1. and definitely could easily be 9-0 if there was a face mask at the end of that game, but we won't get into that. I'm all over the Eagles. I don't have that much else to say. I think the Eagles are just gonna run up the score. It's gonna show why Jeff Saturday probably belongs back in the ESPN analyst booth for this game. I'm all over the Eagles. How about you, Robert?
I see the result and first wanted to play in and figure out just where do these two teams belong, right? And that 6.5 is definitely way too low in my opinion. I think that the Eagles do get the win and cover here. A couple of reasons. The Colts defense, as light as they were, only get worse now. Darius Leonard is going to be out for the season. He was, called upon, to play the linebacker position and pick up 100+ tackles. Well, the season's already over with his back injury. Matt Ryan has been named starter, so we'll take that out of the equation and know that Ellinger is not going to play. So Saturday has chosen Ryan, and he's going to probably see Matt Ryan for the rest of the season. On the Eagles side, A.J. Brown, he kind of disappeared pretty much for the entire game. He just got an ankle injury. He's now probable to play. And Dallas Goedert is out probably for a long time on the IR, hurt his shoulder. So they wanted to go and test Tyree Jackson. And he also has a knee injury. So, I mean, look, it's a long gap between Goddard and Tyree Jackson. So they may need to switch their game plan a little bit and not include tight ends as a target.
Right.
That being said, I still think that the Eagles are vastly superior here, despite being on the road. I think they do cover the game by a touchdown or more, Alex.
Yeah, totally agree. I don't think there's much else to say here. This is definitely an overreaction compared to the Eagles' loss combined with the Colts win. It's something definitely to consider. So I would totally back the Eagles on this one and the under too. I just don't see the Colts scoring in this game that much. I know Jonathan Taylor had a bounce back game against the Raiders last week, but I think the Eagles do a pretty good job containing the run. They did a decent job against Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. It just kept it felt like they just kept chipping away, getting a 3rd and 1. I think they do bounce back in this game. I love backing superior teams coming off a loss. So Eagles for me. All right. The last game that I want to highlight, of course, is my New York Giants. And we are going up against the Detroit Lions, which, Robert, I mean, we're a game out of first place. So let's not sleep on the division here. But what are the odds, nevertheless, for this game?
Yes, exactly. I opened up the Giants 4. I took a little bit of money on the dog, and so now it's sitting at it. The classic 3. So the Giants at home, 7-2 New York Giants at home, 3-point favorites. The total 45, some 44.5, but it's 45 pretty much everywhere, Allie.
So I've done a pretty good job picking either for or against the lines this year. Robert and I belong to Sharp Rank. We're members. And if you look at me the last few games, I'm 4-0 when either backing or going against the lines in the previous 4 weeks. This one, I want to just full disclaimer, I'm going to put my bias aside, but I like the Giants in this game to cover. I think the Lions, they just tend to blow the game even when they're up. What do the Giants do best? They come back and they cover. We've seen it time after time again against the Titans. We've seen it against the Jaguars. We saw it against the Packers. I think the Giants are a better coach team, and that's one of the biggest cues. I don't think Brian Daboll is nearly as reckless as you can see Dan Campbell. I think between Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones, they're going to take advantage of the Lions, allowing the most points in the league to opposing both running backs and quarterbacks. I don't think it matters that our receiving core is still depleted. I really like the Giants in this game, and also on the defense as well. We've been playing shutdown defense for the past few weeks. I know it might not reflect in every game, but we can create turnovers, and Jared Goff is a master at throwing interceptions. So for me, I know it might be tempting to take the Lions because they have done a good job covering and actually getting back-to-back upsets, but this is the Giants' week. What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, it's going to be the Giants' week once again. I don't think that there's going to be at this point, the body of work states exactly that, right? I mean, I'm not going to call Giants, as a top 10 team. That I can't do. but I do know that the Lions are definitely a bottom 10 team, if not even more. Uh, it's really not much to talk about from the injury report perspective. We kind of know already what the Giants are and what they're capable of despite all the injuries. 3 points, it's a pretty solid number. I believe they do get the win. If they get the win here, they're going to cover. Allie, I don't think we've disagreed on any picks.
No, I wonder if that's good or bad. But no, these are 5 games I feel very strongly about. I'm not just highlighting them because they are very good matchups. When I was making my picks yesterday and looking at the spread, I did feel very good about all my picks. It would take a major injury to change any of those. So these are probably going to wind up in my 5 bets column that you will read on Friday when I release it. Maybe I'll throw 1 or 2 of the other ones in, but let's go. Let's rapid fire. Let's move on to the rapid fire round. So, Robert, Bears and Falcons, what do we have?
Chicago Bears and Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons hosting the Bears right now, Atlanta -3 and the total 49.5.
So this is another case where I've seen everyone jump on the Bears, and it's because Justin Fields has been leading in fantasy every week since he had his breakout game against the Patriots. I'm going the other way. I love going against the public, and I'm siding with the Falcons on this one. The Falcons have had 10 days rest between when they lost on Thursday night. I actually think they match up very well against the Bears. The Bears are not a good team. Even though Justin Fields has been doing wonders running the ball, he hasn't been great passing. The Bears defense has been atrocious still. They've allowed 30 plus points in I don't know how many consecutive games. I think the Falcons bounce back on this one. They are at home. They do have home field advantage. Playing in a dome, they're not going to have to deal with the weather that otherwise you would get in Chicago. I think they run the ball behind Tyler Allgeier and Cordarrelle Patterson a ton. I think their defense steps up. They do a very good job guarding in the secondary. I think that they're going to take away the pass from Justin Fields, make them run. And I think it's time that defenses, especially with the Falcons for sitting for 10 days between this game, they're going to map up schemes to stop Justin Fields on the ground. You take away his legs, the Bears are probably one of the 5 worst teams in the league. The Falcons, even though they haven't had the early season success as they were covering against the spread, I think this is a good bounce back game for them. So I'm going to go against the public and take Atlanta -3. How about you, Robert?
It's an interesting perspective, right? Because we're taking a look at a dog, and the talk, of course, is now of Justin Fields and how he's been. Well, I don't know. Coming out party, I guess we could call it a number of things. What I do want to call it is exactly what I thought he was coming out of college, a really dynamic quarterback that obviously didn't have much to throw to.
Right.
And there really wasn't much surrounding him to help. But Allie, he's right on par with Lamar Jackson. I really feel that there's a very similar skill set.
Really? Wow.
Not only that incredibly fast, he's able to beat other cornerbacks, sprinting down the line. And what I'm seeing right now is really, really fantastic. It's just a golden age of quarterbacks. I am taking 3 points here. I think that the quarterback that is Justin Fields, we still haven't even seen yet what he's capable of. And we won't be until he gets even more wide receivers and other talent to throw to. Claypool's a great start, and it goes up from there. I will take the 3 points here with Chicago.
See, call me a Justin Fields hater, and I watched him in college. I don't see the Lamar Jackson comparison. I know people are saying, well, he runs and this and that. When Lamar Jackson came out that year, he won the MVP his first season. He was electric from the beginning. Not only could he do stuff with his legs, though, Robert, he could pass with his arm. I'm not seeing that with Justin Fields. I know he hasn't had the best receivers. He had Allen Robinson last year, which, we look at Allen Robinson now and he gets a pass on that. But Darnell Mooney isn't a bad receiver. Cole Kmet isn't a bad tight end. He has Chase Claypool now. I still am not buying into Justin Fields. I need to see more out of his arm. I need to see when defenses force him to throw. And the past 2 weeks, he's played 2 of the worst defenses in the league. He's played the Detroit Lions and he's played the Miami Dolphins. 2 of the worst defenses. Not saying Atlanta is much better. They're actually pretty weak against the run. But if you've had 10 days to game plan, you better be ready to stop Justin Fields. I think Atlanta will be ready. I think that when Justin Fields is not playing at home, he's not as good. I'm just gonna say I love the Falcons in this matchup. I know everyone's gonna be jumping on the Bears. They get 3 points with Justin Fields. I think finally the Bears come back to earth. Hey, I'd love to be proven wrong because I have Justin Fields starting in my fantasy team this week, but I'm strong on the Falcons for this one. Okay.
You're going to win your fantasy game, by the way. I'll just lay that out.
I hope so. If I don't win my fantasy week and it's Justin Fields, I'm gonna have a reaction like you had on Monday to the Ravens. Not as bad because it's only losing 1 week, but still. All right, let's move on to the surprise team from Monday night, the Commanders going up against the Texans. Robert, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, exactly. Washington now on the road, 5-5. They literally could have everyone in the NFC East make a playoff spot. Commanders 3 and -120, the total 40.5, Allie.
Yeah, I'm going against the Commanders now. Like I said with the Vikings, I love backing fading teams that are coming off their quote unquote Super Bowl win, defeating the undefeated defeating the undefeated Eagles in Philadelphia was their Super Bowl win of the season. It got them back to 500. It got them back in the playoff race. Now everything gets washed this week. Maybe they beat the Texans, but I think it's a close game. You look at 2 weeks ago, or was it 3 weeks ago when they beat the Colts by only 1 point? They came within the Vikings to cover. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think Dameon Pierce is going to run all over the Commanders. I was surprised that the Eagles didn't use Miles Sanders really at all till the second half.
Right.
They didn't take advantage of the run game, but I think that the Texans will pound the ball with Dameon Pierce. So I'm backing the Texans here. How about you, Robert?
I actually will take the Commanders. I will lay the 3, and I think they get the win. News latest right now is Chase Young is now upgraded to probable Sunday versus Houston. That's only going to spell even more of a problem. And I actually do think that, I think I've seen enough of Houston throughout the year, and especially after seeing what the Giants did hosting the Houston Texans. I think I know exactly what we're expecting here. I do think Washington does pick up the win here, and it just keeps rolling. Taylor Heineke's got this team moving. I doubted. I'm not going to doubt anymore, though.
Well, all good things come to an end eventually. So I'm gonna back the Titans. All right, let's move on to the Panthers and the Ravens. We got Baker Mayfield back. What are we looking at, Robert?
Yeah, exactly. Baker Mayfield will be starting this game. And so as we look at the spread, this one open and it's still the same way. The Ravens, a 12-point favorite in the total 42.
I never thought I would say it, but I actually think the Panthers are a worse team with Baker Mayfield as quarterback than PJ Walker. Can't believe I'm saying it, but that's how I feel. I actually don't think 12.5 points is enough to lay with the Ravens. I think this is a pure blowout. I know Mark Andrews probably still isn't back this week. I don't think it matters. I think Lamar Jackson runs all over the Panthers. I think Baker Mayfield just makes mistake after mistake. I don't even want to go that deep into it, but I think this is a blowout. I'm taking the Ravens. How about you?
I agree. Yeah, Mark Andrews, by the way, he's upgraded
so he's gonna play.
Probable a few days ago. So that's his current status right now. And with no PJ Walker, I think they get significantly worse. I don't think Carolina cracks 10 points. Heck, they might not crack 7 points. So I think Ravens in a rout as well.
Yep, and definitely the under I am going with on that one as well. Let's move on to the Jets and the Patriots, a rematch from a few weeks ago. Robert, what are we looking at?
Yeah, boy, oh boy, this one is got quite a bit of movement, but right now, as we opened up the Patriots 4, it got bounced down to 3. Now it's 3.5, and the total 37.5. Very low.
So it's a very, very low total. And I would have to say that I'm going to agree with the low total and take the under here. I think these are two teams that don't trust their quarterback. The Jets don't trust Zach Wilson, and the Patriots don't entirely trust Mac Jones. I think this is a run game on both sides. I think you're going to see the combination of James Robinson and Michael Carter for the Jets a lot. I think you're going to see Ramondre Stevenson for the Patriots a lot. I think this is going to be a grinded out game. In that case, I'm going to get the points with the Jets. Patriots beat them earlier in the year when the Patriots were favored. Patriots are favored again, but I think the Jets at least cover on this one. How about you, Robert?
Great take. You're absolutely right. And Allie, with a team that's won 6 of their 9 to get 3 points, even if it is in New England. I mean, it's literally just a bus ride up north.
Right.
This isn't too far of a trip. Division game. Catching 3 points here definitely is the right idea.
All right, let's move on to two teams in turmoil, the Rams and the Saints, Robert.
Yeah, LA, Scott. Boy, did they sell their soul. Uh, the team that they're playing is the Saints. We opened up the Saints 3. I actually thought I'd get pushback on a 3, and no, it went the other way. So the Saints are now a 4-point favorite with a total 39. Obviously, the big one here, Cooper Kupp will not be playing.
I know Cooper Kupp's not playing. I know Matt Stafford probably won't be back this week. There's no way, after seeing what the Saints have done the past few weeks, that I could ever lay points with the Saints, at least that high, even more than a field goal. I'm going to back the Rams on this one. I know John Wolford didn't have a good game. If he plays in front of Matt Stafford this week, I think he does have a better week with practice. Again, Matt Stafford didn't go into concussion protocol until I believe Thursday last week. Didn't give Wolford a lot of time to work with the first team. Cooper Kupp is a big loss, but I think Allen Robinson finally steps up and has a good game. I think they utilize the run game in this one. Also, when you compare the coaching, I'll take Sean McVay over Dennis Allen any day of the week. I just need to watch Andy Dalton throw a few interceptions. I'm going to take the points with the Rams. How about you, Robert?
That's a great point, actually, Ali. You're right. There's really not much that we can point to. The Saints, I mean, they're 3-7, and their body of work has showed that they're really not that good at home when they're faced up with a defense as capable as the Rams are. So grabbing 4 points here, I would probably side with you as well.
All right. How about the Browns and the Bills, Robert? What are we looking at?
Yeah, so the Cleveland Browns right now, they're actually starting to practice Deshaun Watson quite a bit, and so that's not going to happen just yet. Really the big news here is the status of Josh Allen. Buffalo opened 9, down to 8.5, and now 8 with a total 41.
Yeah, I'm actually going to side with the Browns. I know they let me down last week against the Dolphins, but I think that Josh Allen, if the Bills are smart, they'll sit Josh Allen this game. Let him get healthy. He hasn't looked 100% in the past few weeks. I don't think he's still 100%. In that case, I'm going to jump on the high number early this week because I think once you hear that Case Keenum is probably going to start for him, if he does, then I still think that I think the point spread will come down. Jump on the high spread as it is. I think that the Browns will run the ball a lot behind Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I think that even if they don't win, even if Josh Allen doesn't play, that's just too much of a number to lay against a team that's been struggling. I'm going to take the points with the Browns. How about you, Robert?
As long as they don't stay don't look at distractions and know that, come week 13, you're getting a new quarterback. Just do what you do and do it well, and that's run the ball. I think if they can run the ball and control the line of scrimmage like they typically do, I do think that they'll be able to stay inside of that double-digit area and cover the spread. So, Ali, I don't know if we disagreed on really much of anything today.
No, we just had the Bears and the Commanders game we disagreed on. So let's move on to the team that shall not be named against the Broncos. Robert, what are we looking at here?
All these Denver Broncos, it's just an odd state of affairs where I really, really am starting to think that it was Russ Wilson and how he basically turned the Seattle Seahawks into a pretty huge pile of demise. That being said, they are actually 2.5, some 3s out there even already. The total 41 as hosts, 2.5, 41.5.
Man, this is just one game, Robert. I have no idea who to back in this one because both teams are just pure garbage. In that case, when I have two garbage teams, I just got to take the points. So I hate to say it, but I'm going to take the points with the team that shall not be named, the Raiders. How about you?
I'm going to go and completely go off the rails and say, of course, lay the points. I love home favorites. Yay. Yes, definitely lay it here.
I know you're never going to back that team again the entire rest of the
year. I can't speak another thing about this game.
All right, we'll just move right on. All right, how about the Bengals and the Steelers, Robert? What are we looking at?
That's right, though. So this one's actually pretty cool. I thought that we had the line set correctly when I opened it 4. It got bounced up a little, but we're back down to 4. So Bengals 4 points the better in Pittsburgh. The total 41.
I'm gonna ride the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've been playing very well as of late. They upset the Buccaneers a few weeks ago. They lost pretty handily to the Eagles. They had a nice win against the Saints. It looks like they're coming together. I'm gonna take the points against a Cincinnati squad that I still don't think is the same on offense without Jamar Chase. I think Mike Tomlin is a very good coach, even if the Steelers don't win. I think that especially at home, they stay within the point spread. So I'm backing the Steelers on this one. How about you, Robert?
Yeah, it's a great point. There's so much of Joe Mixon that you could throw in, and I don't know if T. Higgins, can behave as a wide receiver one. So I'm agreeing with you here again. Pittsburgh as a home dog here, catching 4. I think they keep it close with an outside shot of a win here. No Chase for the Bengals again. It's definitely a different look. They will get better, and I think Cincinnati will be positioned very well for a championship run. But until Chase comes back, I don't like their prospects.
I totally agree with you. All right, let's move on to the final game of the week, and that is the Monday night game, the 49ers and the Cardinals. Probably at the beginning of the year, everyone would have circled this game as one of the better games to watch. It's probably going to be a dud. Spoiler alert. But nevertheless, Robert, what's the spread here?
Yeah, exactly. It's really funny because we're, the two teams, at least from a win-loss perspective, it's not that far off, but the Niners are the one that kind of, righted the ship, at least in terms of their trajectory. The Niners and Cardinals will be playing a neutral field game on Monday. Now, this game's going to be at Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, and the Niners are already up to an 8-point favorite in the total 43.5.
And I know that's a very tough area to play. I know every time that they have a soccer match there, it's hard to breathe. There's a lot of altitude, but in the field's not great. But nevertheless, I just got to side with the Niners. I didn't even look twice at the spread. I think the Cardinals are up in shambles. They don't have Zach Ertz anymore. He's probably done for the season. They had to release Eno Benjamins and just rely on James Conner. I think that this team, even though they beat the Rams last week, I think they are far inferior to the Niners. I don't think this game's close. I think the Niners, I think Arizona struggles to score the entire game, to be honest with you. I think the Niners, it's basically Christian McCaffrey, do what you can with the ball. And I think the Niners win comfortably in this one. How about you, Robert?
Yeah, I do believe that they pick up the win. The spread probably is not too much of a concern either. I mean, it looks like possibly Marquise Brown might come back for the game, but there's so many other question marks that it really, it cancels everything out. Matt Prater, we don't know if he's going to be able to kick. Kyler Murray, really the most important thing. He injured his hamstring, and here we are with hamstring injuries again. If he can't be mobile, then you could forget about any kind of a performance from his perspective. So you could stop right there. And yeah, Ali, you're absolutely right. Zach Ertz out for the year with his knee injury, so they're not going to be able to rely on his large mitts to pull in any kind of receptions. It doesn't look likely that Arizona is going to pick up the win, and I think San Francisco does get the cover here in Mexico.
Totally agree with you. I think, Robert, this is a podcast where we agreed more than any other time before. Isn't that something?
I surrender to you, Ali. I like every pick that you make. I no longer am going in this with any kind of vested interest, especially any survivor pools. What? You said you wanted to talk about a survivor pool pick? Sure. Let's give it a survivor pool.
Let's go, Robert. What advice do you have?
For those of you that still remain in survivor pools here in week 11, I congratulate you because you're probably one of just a handful of people that probably are still alive. We talked a little bit right around the middle of our segment about the New York Giants and the Detroit Lions. At 7-2, the Giants definitely have everything in their favor to win another home game here. The 3 points is a tiny spread, but it's late, and there's probably not many choices left for you. If you are banking and saving one of those teams with a large point spread, like, say, Baltimore or maybe Kansas City, absolutely. There's nothing here to even listen to any further. You can go ahead and punch that number. But if they're all gone, New York Giants definitely my pick here to survive and move on with a win in week number 11.
Totally agree. I think the Giants are the play this week. If you wanna take the Commanders, I think that might be a good week, even though I like the Texans to cover. Commanders might be a good pick for you going against the worst team in the league. I also think that if you still have the Bills, obviously you take the Bills. But another team to maybe take a shot with if you're really, really stretching for someone to back is I would take a chance at the Steelers. We mentioned how the Bengals just really aren't playing well lately. It is a division game. The Steelers beat the Bengals earlier this season, so that might be a sleeper pick to take as well. All right, we are out of time, unfortunately, for today. This was a great episode. I really had a lot of fun talking with you, Robert. But before we sign off, Robert, any last words of advice or any thoughts for the audience?
Hallie, as is everything right now, injuries pile up constantly. And so continue to, track everything. Know that, especially when you look into key injuries at quarterback, these will really, really start to fluctuate a number as you see with Josh Allen in Buffalo. So keep abreast of all the information. Know that when the opening line comes out, that's probably when it's at its most volatile. Just continue to get the news, and you get it from where you're going to get it, because these injuries pile up. They changed the line pretty significantly in the time that we talked about the Baltimore Ravens as a 12-point favorite. As I'm looking right now, it's already up to 13. It's as if they're listening to us in some sort of live format. We know that's not quite possible. In any case, line movement happens early when the line gets posted late Sunday night, early Monday. And then, of course, as news continues to get out. So monitor your local news in any way that you can, and you'll find line movement happen just as that news produces itself. It's just a way of how the market makes itself.
Totally. And I'll follow up with that by saying just watch out for overreactions. Just because the Packers had a nice win against the Cowboys, just because the Commanders gave the Eagles their first win, just don't jump on the bandwagon. It's not always there. There's a reason why the Packers still are 4-6. There's a reason why the Commanders are still in last place in the NFC East. Just be wary of public reactions, knee-jerk reactions. A lot of times the spreads affect that, and they also affect when a team loses, like the Eagles going up against the Colts. Robert said if the Eagles win that game, the spread's probably around 9 or 10. They lost, it's at 6.5. Jump on the value right there. So that's my bit of advice for you guys today. But we are out of time. Robert and I will be back Monday to recap everything. Hopefully our picks are just as good as they were last week, and hopefully if you do, I hate to say it, but if you do listen to us, hopefully it pans out. I will have my best bets blog on Friday. You could check out right now my Thursday night football best bets. I recap why I like the Titans in the under. And Robert will have his power rankings coming out later today as well. So be sure to check those out too. All right, everyone, take care.